Do you ride in the traffic? Do you ride on the roads? Do you use your ears to help you understand what's around you and give you situational awareness? Well, you probably do, and you probably use them a lot more than you realize. However, they have limitations. Let's find out where they are and what you can do about it. Many years ago, before Hawkeye was even conceived, I went out and bought a camera and mounted it to the rear of my bicycle pointing backwards. I then ran a cable to a small display mounted on the handlebars. Now I thought that I knew what was going on behind me. I was using my ears and other sensors and looking behind me regularly. I realized with that camera setup that there was a lot that I was missing, a lot that my ears weren't picking up, and the camera showed me exactly how much I was missing. Now, the human ear is an amazing thing. It has been developed over millions of years thanks to evolution, and it has been evolved to keep us safe, to help us in our environment, to help us find food, find mates, socialize, and they work extremely well, from micro whispers that you can barely hear up to sounds which are millions of times louder without damage. We call that dynamic range, and it is around about 120 dBs for the human ear. Not only that, it can work over a huge frequency range. A young person can hear from about 20 hertz up to 20,000 hertz, huge frequency range. But bolted onto that is the human brain, which does a lot of interpretation. One of the great things that it can do is detect direction. Unlike a dog, which has to tilt its head in order to get the ears to point and then get a sense of direction, we can do that by keeping our head fairly still because of the unique geometry of our ears. So we have the geometry of our ears, the mechanisms within the ear itself, and then the brain, which is interpreting, allowing us to concentrate on things and pick out voices in a crowded environment. We've all done that. And it is amazing how good the hearing system really is. Now, compared to animals, humans sit in about the middle of the range of capability. You have dogs and bats, which can hear very, very high frequencies, and elephants with very, very low frequencies. Humans are around in the middle of the range. The performance peaks around about where the human voice is, around about 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 kilohertz. But where humans really excel is their ability to detect things in space. Now, under optimal conditions and with practice, people can detect things that are 1 degree away from each other. So out of 360 degrees all the way around, 1 degree is a very, very small angle that we can actually detect with our human hearing. So our capability is really quite strong. And this is because of our geometry of our ears, the differential nature of our head, and the spatial processing, the signal processing, if you like, which is going on inside the brain. Now, of course, a microphone like this one in front of me, it can't do any of those things. For a start, it's only one microphone, and it takes a lot of signal processing to do that kind of capability. So the human hearing system is really very, very capable. Now, one important part of the signal processing is the ability to detect movement. So the Doppler shift, as it is called, when a car approaches you, the frequency is high, and as it passes, it's neutral, and when it goes away from you, the frequency drops. And it's that detection of frequency which is also another really helpful cue that we do automatically, knowing that something's coming towards us by the pitch of the vehicle or whatever it is that's coming. Especially something that has a rhythmic pattern, such as a car motor or the wheels turning. It's very easy for us, not so easy for a machine, but easy for us to actually determine the direction. Now, this is all great news for cyclists because we can detect the direction, somewhat the distance with the loudness, whether it's approaching or receding from us with the Doppler effect, and all of this happens automatically in our ears. And so if there's a truck coming up behind you, you'll know by the sound of it what type of vehicle it is, whether it's approaching you, by the frequency of it, the loudness of it. So all these things are giving us great cues and very, very helpful when we're understanding our environment and trying to deal with the traffic that we can't actually see. Finally is the processing that goes on to filter out all the irrelevant sounds that we pick up. Like when you're in a crowd, you can hear someone talking to you because you're filtering out all those things. So the brain does a really good job of filtering out irrelevant sounds. So the background noise of a city isn't important to you, but the sound of that truck which is coming up towards you is definitely something that will get your attention. So a great system ready for cyclists to use. Anyone that's got good hearing is going to take advantage of that. But what are some of the limitations? So the first limitation is probably the most obvious one, and it is that some vehicles now are electric and they don't have internal combustion engines making noise. So in that peak range from 1 to 4 kilohertz, they're not making much noise. There's some low frequency, maybe some high frequency stuff going on with the motors and so forth, but generally they can be very, very quiet. The second limitation is, of course, the background noise. So in a noisy city environment, the background noise can be so high that we cannot pull out those relevant sounds. A cyclist has a particular problem because often they're wearing a helmet where the ears are open to the air, and the sound of the air blowing past the ears makes a noise which can mask out a lot of the sounds going on are hazards. Another limitation is that sounds can be reflected and bounce off solid surfaces. So where I live, I often hear a sound coming from what looks like a wall, when in fact when I look over there, it's actually in a building at about a 45-degree incidence angle. So the sounds are coming to that wall and reflecting, and it sounds like it's coming from the wall. So in a city environment where you have these walls, noises can be very misleading in terms of their direction because they bounce off these solid surfaces. Another limitation is our inability to judge distance. Distance, we use effectively the loudness of something, and if we don't know the baseline loudness and how loud the background noise is, very difficult for us to determine how far away something really is. Finally, it's the human condition, which is that we get fatigued, we get tired, we get distracted. We might be wearing earphones for music or talking to someone on the phone. Any number of things will override the attention that should be given to detecting the sounds around us and cause us to miss really important hazards that are occurring in our vicinity. So how does Hawkeye help compensate for the limitations with the human hearing system? Well, firstly, it's a complete vision system. So it doesn't rely on any audio factors. It's a little bit like having eyes in the back of your head, which are constantly looking backwards. So the quiet cars, the hybrid cars, all those issues that go around that we just talked about with sound are overcome with the fact that it's a vision system. Now, Hawkeye significantly overcomes the accuracy issue, both in terms of direction and in terms of distance. Hawkeye, being a vision system, knows exactly the orientation of the hazard and can plot that, and also it knows the distance of it by calculating using the AI technology that we have to give you the distance. So it really is great for overcoming those two human audio limitations. Now, Hawkeye is also a machine, and it doesn't get tired or fatigued or distracted. It works constantly and consistently, providing that interpretation over and over and over again. For as long as the system is running, it's going to be providing a consistent, reliable update. There's no distractions, there's no fatigue, there's no limitations of the human condition. So Hawkeye is a very complementary technology to the human audio system. It really supplements those areas of weakness that the human audio system has with the technology. And we believe that's why Hawkeye is such a powerful tool to help keep people safe whilst they're on the road. So what are some of the things we can do to keep ourselves safe whilst on the roads? Well, number one would be avoiding fatigue, keeping ourselves alert and paying attention to our environment. Secondly, what about avoiding those really high traffic environment roads? Choosing back roads rather than main roads would keep the noise down and keep us more aware of our surroundings. Using visual checks. So we should all incorporate a scan, just as we do when we're driving, to incorporate the mirrors. So mounting mirrors on the bicycle and glancing at them regularly as part of our scan to keep ourselves safe. Reducing wind interference. So the air that's blowing past our ears is making a lot of noise. Now, there are helmets and other means to help baffle and reduce that noise going past the ears, and we should make use of those because then we can hear better as we're riding in those environments where we need that. And anticipating blind spots. So we know that our ears have limitations in terms of distance, in terms of accuracy. So knowing our limitations of the ear can really help us to compensate. So if you're lucky enough to own and use a Hawkeye, Here's a way to make Hawkeye an enhancement to your safety. So number one is to use Hawkeye and incorporate that in your scan. So that is looking down at the display and paying attention to the alerts that are presented to you through Hawkeye. So integrating that into your mental process as you're riding. Also not relying 100% on Hawkeye. Hawkeye is a piece of camera AI technology and they always have limitations. So use it as an alerting system, but verify with mirrors, looking over your shoulder and other cues. Hawkeye has great capabilities in giving you a full situational awareness of what's around you and getting to know how the system interprets what's behind you and what is useful to you is something that will take a little bit of practice and a little bit of time to really evolve and become part of your useful safety routine. And of course, keep Hawkeye maintained. It needs its battery charged up. It needs new software loaded on when we have new capabilities. And the lens needs to be kept clean and the field of view behind a Hawkeye needs to be clear. It's very easy to have a coat drop over the lens and of course what it can't see, it can't help you with. Now if you want to know more about safety, riding on the roads, cycling, then look at the links in the description because we do many videos on rider safety and other factors of cycling. If you're interested in Hawkeye, please follow the other links in the description over to the website where you can check out what we have on offer over there. Now, I hope you learned something today about hearing and how that helps with riding and situational awareness and how there are limitations and what you can do about those limitations. So I hope that helps and thanks for watching.